on time.
And God damn it, you want to know something?
Welcome to This News, SnarkAlec News, with your host, Tony Solo. Special reports by Dylan Lang.
And this is the SnarkAlec News. Thank you for joining us, everybody. This is where Dylan and I talk about SnarkAlec's stuff and other things. So welcome. Today is Thursday, February 12th, and my co-host is Mr. Dylan Lang, and he's going to start right out after he introduces himself with the birthdays.
I will. I am Dylan Lang. I host Dylan Knows, weekly show on Sundays at 12:30. Most of you should know that. Most of you should be watching it, but no, that's besides the point. And real quick, Tony, how long is this going to be? Because I got to make the midnight showing of 50 Shades of Grey in IMAX, so hopefully we can get that hurried up. Going by myself, of course.
I have no words. I have no words.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey in IMAX. I'm sorry, that was just one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I'm not really going out there. Come on, people, you know me by now.
Is it real 3D? Wouldn't that be nasty if it was in real 3D? Holy crap, if you had that stuff coming right at you. Holy.
It would be messed up, actually. So we're going to go from 50 Shades of Grey to birthdays. I guess that's a good segue, I suppose. Anyway, today is February 12th. It's Abraham Lincoln's birthday. He'd be what, 200-some years old? I don't know.
206.
Ah.
206.
Okay, well, happy birthday, Abe, I guess. But the people who are still alive, February 20th.
I just want to point out, I think that Abe Lincoln would still be younger than Betty White.
Absolutely. Yeah, they went to school together. She was ahead of him. Anyway, so the birthdays, SnarkAlec birthdays. What we got? We got a lot. We're going to do the last couple in February and a bunch in March. So without further ado, the first birthday coming up is February 23rd. It's our very own Laura Norman's birthday. So that's what, February 23rd. That is sometime next week.
Monday.
Monday. There we go.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Monday.
2 weeks. Monday. All right. That's right. Yes, that's right. Anyway, so her birthday is the 23rd. So happy birthday to Laura. And February 26th.
You could skip that one. Keep going.
I can't. No. This is Mr. Tony Solo's birthday is February 26th. So everyone be sure to wish Tony a happy birthday. Now we get to March. We got a lot in March. March 2nd is AJ's birthday, and real quick, I want to make a shout out to AJ. He and his boyfriend, now husband, George, got married in Vegas, I guess this past weekend. So congratulations to them. They posted some video, and Dawn was watching it, and it was absolutely adorable. So congratulations to you, AJ. You've now joined the ranks of the married. Hope you survived the experience, my friend.
Yeah, just in time for tax season too, huh?
Exactly. And speaking of married, my better half's birthday, Mrs. Dawn Snarks, her birthday is March 3rd. So happy birthday to my lovely wife. Hopefully I'll remember to get her something.
Yeah, that would be deadly, wouldn't it?
It would be deadly. March 4th is our lovely Larissa's, Daphne Dew's birthday is on March 4th. So wow, we got a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th back to back. And holy cow, March 5th is Phil's birthday. Philo 1000, so wish him a happy birthday. So that's 4 straight in a row. Wow, that's crazy. Then we get a little bit of a break, and then we've got Dan LaRock's birthday on February 8th, so don't forget to wish him a happy birthday. Oh, and look, Tony, Myrna is watching. Yay!
Yeah.
She just tweeted something out. And then our friend of the show on March 14th, Vicky Adesso. Her birthday is on March 14th, as I mentioned before. And to round out March's birthday, March 18th is our friend Amy Glitter's birthday, Amy's birthday. Now, what's interesting about the 18th is it's weird that your birthday's on the 18th, Amy, because my stepdad's birthday's on the 18th also, so that's pretty cool. So that is the sci-fi birthdays.
Yeah, I think what we did there was those are the Pisces. And right before we went live, Dylan and I were discussing the next snooze, and that's going to be on March 12th. So we'll probably do some of those birthdays again, like Vicky Adesso
Vicky's and Amy's.
and
Yeah.
Amy's again. But everybody that was mentioned today, I believe, is a Pisces, as far as we know.
Yeah, I think so.
And so on February 21st, there is a movie on Sci-Fi called Solomon Kane, and I think this came out either in 2009 or 2012 because there's 2 dates on IMDb, and it's about a warrior who renounces violence because he sees visions that he's going to go to hell, but he's forced back into battle when a powerful evil threatens England. So it's new to Sci-Fi. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but we're probably going to snark that sucker on February 21st. That's in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's next weekend. I might actually be slightly late to it because we've got the first of 2 daddy-daughter dances that I'm going to with my daughter Noelle. It should be over by about 8-ish, I think, 8 or 8:30, so I might miss maybe the first half hour of it. But Dawn will probably be there for a while, so I'll jump in and get caught up that way. So that's pretty cool.
So that's the only thing that we've got going up on Sci-Fi. Changed their website. I don't know if you've seen it, but they used to actually put a month calendar up there, and then you could click on the dates for the next 2 months. Now they only seem to go a month at a time, and you have to pick a date from a drop down. So we can only see as far into the future as like the highest date that they show is the 25th of February. We used to be able to see through March at this point, but they changed their schedule. But I think Sci-Fi has they're going to cut back on the movies, and it was something that they had spoken about a couple of years ago because they were going to more into their own shows, and so that's how we get Z Nation and 12 Monkeys and Helix and some of these other pretty decent shows that they've been putting out there. So. And of course your face-offs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean the movies are phenomenal, and do not want to it's not like they were putting out a whole bunch. They were probably only doing about maybe 10 a year, 10 or 12, maybe a little bit more. But we got spoiled with those, and
I mean, I understand, and it's a business, and I know they've got a couple of other shows that they're working on. They're gonna be coming up soon too. But I'd like the idea of maybe 12 a year. I mean, get 1 a month maybe. That wouldn't be too bad. Just set aside, some little cash there. Do maybe 1 a month. That'd be kind of nice. I mean, just to mix it up a little bit. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to. You don't have to do it in spurts like they used to. You do 1 in January, February, so on and so forth down the line. So I thought that'd be neat. But
yeah.
If we ran Sci-Fi, well, it would be different. But we don't run Sci-Fi, so.
It's true, and it's a possibility that we might be the only ones watching it too. If we're the one, well, us and the rest of the SnarkAlecs. But I mean, we know we're going to get a Sharknado 3. And I'm guessing we're going to get a Sharknado 4. And I kind of hope that we get a better... I mean, Sharknado 1, loved it. Sharknado 2, I think, was better than the first one, only because some of the cameos they had in it were great. Especially with Al Roker and Matt Lauer and Michael Strahan and some of those people. But, that kind of ups your budget a little bit, and... I hope they put more money into making the movie better without the necessary cameos. But that's the type of movie that I'm sure there will be some people saying, "Oh, I want to be in that, just to be in a scene, just to get killed by a shark." That would be cool.
That would be cool.
It's a tour bus full of SnarkAlecs and a bunch of sharks just. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But it
Well,
would
I
be
don't know.
cool.
I mean, Gerald does the casting, so hey, Gerald, we're here. You know us. We do anything you want us to. It'd be fine, within reason, I suppose.
Well, the next one is down in Miami, I think. So I'm guessing that's going to have a Latin flavor to it, that movie. But then, you've got other cities and towns. I mean, you can't diss Chicago. I mean, Chicago's got to get it. Then you're talking Baltimore, Boston, Philly. I mean, you got a couple other big cities that need to get.
Hell, I mean, if you wanted to, go do DC. I mean, you can do a lot of political commentary and stuff about that. You can have one of the sharks land on the White House or something like that. That might not be good, but
You want to know something? I do this all the time. I'm sorry. I was trying to respond to a tweet, but I have two computers working, so I'm looking at one screen and I have another keyboard over here, but I have to use another keyboard. And Myrna's having a hard time hashtagging snooze. So you don't need to put the period in there, Myrna, the way I spell it. So snooze is fine. You don't need to put the period because that kind of ends the hashtag. But speaking of Myrna, this is what I'm going to call the Myrna segment of the show, because I did tweet out right before we started a link to get to the SnarkAlec improvement page, and everybody's open to use that for suggestions or complaints, or they can just hashtag Laura Norman and and hit her up. But when we get ready for the show, and a couple of times a month, I take a look to see if there's any suggestions or responses, and got a whole bunch from Myrna. So here are Myrna's suggestions, or well, her first one is a complaint. I need my camera on my laptop fixed. Oh, and I absolutely love this news, and I didn't those updates, and that was from Myrna. I don't understand how that's a complaint, but Myrna, tried to fix your laptop camera once, and it didn't work because you didn't have the software and everything was being nosy, so we decided not to do it.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at her.
Okay.
Oh,
So the next compliment is from Myrna, or question is, and she wants to know, can you do a how-to blog? How-to for technology. And you should keep a book with how to reach SnarkAlec. Nice and neat one. Okay, so for the first part of that comment, no, I cannot do a technology blog. However, if you have a technology question that you want us to maybe answer on the show, you could submit that question through the complaints or suggestion department, with some specifics, and we will try and answer those questions, but we're not going to do a specific blog like how to turn on your cell phone. For the second part of it, and there is a third part to this too, I don't know how well that would work. You see, I have a book here. I usually write notes in it and stuff. It's a nice book. Right now it's neat, but if I write down people's information here, how is everybody else going to get it? Which leads me to the question is, do you mean an actual book? Or do you want me to, hey, this is right up your alley, Myrna. Do you want me to get everybody to give me their phone numbers, addresses, social security numbers, PIN numbers, bank accounts, and I could post it all on the website, so if you need to get in touch with another SnarkAlec, all of their personal information is there. We could do that. And the point I'm trying to make is, you got to be a little bit more specific. Maybe you could be the keeper of the book if people want to send you their information about, how to get in contact with them in case of an emergency. So you need to be a little bit specific, because if I want to reach any SnarkAlec, I have most SnarkAlec's email addresses, and if not, if I want to communicate with a SnarkAlec without everybody else knowing, I usually do this thing called a DM, and I send them a DM. But like if they disappear from Twitter or something like that, if that's what you're talking about, That's something that we, if you get a little bit more specific on what you want. And, some people don't want to share their information. They don't want you to have their cell numbers and email addresses and stuff like that. So that is definitely something that we can do. The third one, I'm going to ask Dylan to read because I know he's looking at it also.
This one's also from Myrna. It's, you need an unscrambling segment. That's where you attempt to unscramble confusing tweets and confusing episodes of shows SnarkAlec are watching together, from Myrna. Okay. I have no response to that. If you have, once again, if you have specifics in mind, when it comes to, and I'm going to do the second part first, unscrambling episodes of shows the SnarkAlec are watching together. Well, Tony and I don't have the power to do that because we're not writers on the show. We don't have any connection to the show except we're watching it and we're enjoying it. And hopefully, they might show something and they might do something and you might not understand it right then and there, but if they are good writers and good directors and good production team, whatever, they'll answer all your questions eventually, hopefully by the end of the season. It might take the whole 13 episodes, 22 episodes, whatever, but they should be able to answer all your questions unless you're maybe, say, a Twin Peaks, which is more of a feeling type of thing and more of a atmospheric type of thing instead of, like, say, you might be talking about Helix. Yeah, the last couple episodes of Helix may have been slightly confusing because we don't know what's going on with anybody right now and what's going on here and there. They're jumping through time, stuff like that. Or maybe you're talking about The Walking Dead, the very beginning sequences with the quick flashes of the weird pictures, like with the trees and the blood on the picture and the digging of the grave. Well, all those pretty much got answered in the episode. So it's just one of those things that you got to kind of be patient, and hopefully by the end of the season, all your questions will be answered. That's what I think most writers like to do. They like to start with something, mix it up a little bit, and then eventually they make their way back around to it. Now, unscrambling confusing tweets, that's something, unless I was confusing or Tony was confusing to you, only we could answer that. But if, say, Laura Norman was confusing to you or Dawn was confusing to you or something like that, you probably should ask them and say, hey, could you clarify that? They're not going to make fun of you a lot, but any other response to that, Tony? Or
well, my response is, I think we need somebody to unscramble Myrna's tweets, which would be I'm sorry, Myrna, and we're going to talk about The Walking Dead in a minute or two, so it's a good segue. But during The Walking Dead, we saw Martin, Bob, Beth, Mika, and Crazy Chick, and the Governor, all and Lizzie, right? Lizzie was the other one.
Lizzie, yeah, Crazy Chick.
So at one point, I tweeted out, holy shit, are we bringing back everyone? Because they were bringing back everybody who died, in recent time. So Myrna felt that she needed to send me a tweet that said, Tyrese had all the dead people in his head. And that wasn't the purpose of my tweet. I was just saying, okay, so they brought back Martin, then they brought Bob, and I think the last person they brought back was the Governor, okay, and he was the furthest one, or the longest dead out of everybody that they showed there, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, holy shit, they even brought back the Governor. I was expecting maybe they were going to bring back Karen too, Yeah,
but, me too, and that's something we can maybe discuss when we talk about Walking Dead.
But so anyway, the point being, the last episode of The Walking Dead, and we'll talk about it in a minute, it was a little bit confusing, but it was actually, we can go into it, and this will answer Myrna's question. It was supposed to be, I'm pretty sure, because they falsely led you to believe, because not led you to believe, but I'm going to ask Dylan this question. At the beginning, when you see the shovel, and forget about some of the other images that you saw, but the key images were a house, the shovel, the house with the blood, but the shovel, and then you heard Gabriel saying the words. Okay, and I'm gonna guess that 99.9% of the people thought that they were burying Beth. Did you have that feeling?
Absolutely, absolutely. I absolutely believe that they were burying Beth, and when they were showing all the other flashes of things, I still didn't quite understand what was going on, but maybe it was going to have maybe some connection to burying Beth, or that it was all going to lead to burying Beth, that type of thing. The stuff that they went through leading up to the part where they were burying Beth. That's what I thought. I had no idea about what was to come in that episode. So, no, I
Right,
agree with that.
and I kind of thought somebody was going to die, and I thought maybe it was going to be Noah in the episode, but little by little, you started to see some of the images that they were flashing up on the screen. But there was one image that was a little bit, and I think purposely kind of shrouded, where it was Tyrese's view from the car, looking through a dirty window. But it, little by little, as they went into Richmond, um, you started seeing some of the images, like there was that sunburst design and some of these other things. And the interesting thing for me, and I loved the episode, I absolutely loved it, but I'm always in the habit of usually watching the previous episode right before the new one starts. And because this was the premiere of the second half of the season, they had the marathon going. I actually saw the last couple of episodes. So if you watched even just the last episode, where Tyrese is talking to Sasha about what's going on, and now in the previous episode was when they had the slaughter in the church. So you have to keep that in mind. So I had the slaughter in the church with Sasha. Then the next one where Sasha lets the cop go, and Tyrese has a talk with her on the roof when they're getting ready to make the exchange. And then Tyrese having that conversation with Noah in the car, and talking about the news and listening to the radio and whatnot. Tyrese in the last 3 episodes kind of came full circle, is the point I'm getting to. And I think I got more of a sense of it because I watched the last 2 and then the new one. But I still think it was a great episode, and I like the way they tied some stuff together. But they also, the other thing they did, my opinion, was they kind of showed us where Rick's head's at. They showed us Michonne looks like she's tinkering on the edge, that where her head's at. Glenn, where his head's at. They had the conversation about how they all wanted to kill Dawn at that moment. And I see, I cheat because when I talk to Dylan about The Walking Dead, I've already read his zombie hack. So I kind of know what his opinions are, but if you haven't read it, Dylan will let you know. And I probably didn't go into any details, just gave you my opinion. So go ahead, Dylan, tell us.
Yeah, you basically hit the nail on the head. I too absolutely love the episode. Unfortunately, Mandy didn't, and I didn't quite get why she didn't really like it. I guess she was expecting more of an action-packed type of episode to lead off the season. But it worked with what they were trying to do. I'm actually very happy that they are moving up to Virginia, which is where the next big story arc is in the comics and the next level they need to go to. And the fact that they didn't drag it out over a couple episodes like they've been not to do a couple recently, where they drag out the storyline to get to a certain point. In this case, the first like 15 minutes of the episode, you have all the visions that of all the stuff that's upcoming in the episode, and then you've got the like quick runs through time. You got, okay, we're all back together. What are we going to do? We're going to go to Virginia. We may as well head up there. That's what Beth would have wanted. Then you have shots of them get in the car, and then shots of them, signs saying South Carolina. So that means that you can tell that they've left Georgia and they're heading north, and then other shots, and then just boom, boom, boom. So it basically was just showing a span of however many weeks, and we talked about this on the Zombie Con. I mean, we were not exactly sure how long it would take for them to get from Atlanta up to Richmond. So we're assuming that it took maybe a week or so because of the way the system is with the zombies and the traffic on the roads and the stuff like that. So I like that aspect, that they just cut to the chase. Okay, this is the next story arc we're going to do. We're going to be moving them to Virginia. Let's get into it as soon as possible. And then boom, they zoomed all the way to Virginia without having to stop in between and do all this lead up to it. They just said, okay, beginning episode to about 15 minutes in, we're in Virginia. So that's where the next story starts, and then they slowed it down from that point on, which is where they wanted to get to. They wanted to tell this story in the way they wanted to, which was to have, let's go to Richmond, let Noah go see if he can find his family, see if this is a place that we could possibly live, because he said there are walls and stuff like that, and if we could get in there, maybe this will be our new home for a while. And I really think that was what Michonne was hoping for, because she's getting burnt out by being on the road all the time and fending off, all these marauders and people out there. I mean, that's been like a nonstop attack on them. I mean, let's think about this a second. You've got the jail. Well, actually, let's go back. Let's follow Michonne's whole storyline. Michonne and Andrea get together. They go to Woodbury. They meet the governor. Turns out the governor's not quite exactly how he's supposed to be. So she splits and gets the guys into the jail, tells them what's going on. They go to Woodbury. She gets into the fight with the governor. She kills the zombie child, takes his eye. She gets out there. Now the governor wants to hunt her down because he's pissed at her for killing his daughter. So now you've got that threat of that. Then you think the threat is over when they attack the jail, and then they have the virus that comes through and wipes out everybody and turns them all into zombies and kills everybody. And then, lo and behold, look who's back, the governor. Boom, he comes back. He blows up the jail. The governor does get killed, but then they're on the road. And then now Michonne has to deal with the marauders, the guys who were trying to attack Rick, the claimed folk, and then they took care of them. And then they go to Terminus. And now they're dealing with the termites. They put them away in packing cars and want to eat them. And then they defeat them, and then they're on the road again. And now I think Michonne is, and then they lose Beth. Beth gets killed. They have, they run into church, Gabriel. They lost Bob. They've got the remaining termites. They lost Bob. They've lost Beth. So I think at this point, Michonne has not really had a second to calm down from all the stuff that's been happening, and so she's tired, she's done, and she wants to settle down, and I'm okay with that. Yes, Michonne is a badass, yes, and she can handle herself, but it doesn't mean that she's not human, and she is. She's human. She wants to get some normalcy back in her life, because all she's been doing for the last 6 months, year, whatever it is, has been on the run and taking on people who are trying to kill her or her friends and family. And it would burn you out, I think, eventually. So I am fine with her saying, you know what, we can try to make this work. And she's talking to Rick and Glenn, and they go to Richmond, and it's all deserted, and there's burned out buildings, and there's bodies cut up, and there's some zombies around, and there's nobody around, and the walls are broken a little bit. She says, well, we can fix it. We can push these garages up here, and then we can then cut down the trees, the tree lines. We can build up. We can turn this into a place where we can live, because she's done. She doesn't want to be on the road anymore. But Rick and Glenn are like, nah, doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that you missed that Michonne was also doing was when they were at the prison, in between, the governor's appearances, she was out looking for him. So she'd go out for days at a time on the horse. She was crazy about trying to find the governor. So she was doing all that stuff, and you did mention it there, and I think it's a big piece that's coming up. And you may have some insight from reading the books, but there was two things that you saw in that episode, the last episode. You saw when there was that breach in the wall. Okay, so how did that breach get there? We don't know, but outside that breach is 20 or 30 zombies that have been cut from the waist down. So it's basically a little bit of the waist and a whole bunch of legs just sitting back there. And at the end of the episode, and one of my tweets was like, "What happened? Did Rick just run into a clown car?" Because when they were trying to get out with Tyrese, when that pickup popped open and all those torsos came out, and they were, I believe, just torsos, and I don't think any of them had arms, but there was a W carved into just about every one of those zombies' foreheads, and it looks like it didn't end up well for the people who were doing that, because there was one zombie in a car that was dead, but it seemed to have arms because it was still in there. And like, why? Okay, so whatever happened in Richmond was definitely done on purpose, and that was one of the things that none of the characters did mention, but they all did have some weird looks on their faces when they saw there was just legs there, you know, and then there was the zombies and dead people in the houses. But, you know, and at the time when they were leaving, I guess they were so focused on trying to save Tyrese that, you know, and they put it right in your face. Hey, look, there's a zombie with a W right in the middle of its head, and there was a couple of them, but you could not miss that one thing. And I mean, I was surprised again that it was Tyrese that died, because, as I said, it looked like Tyrese was coming full circle. And I also happened to catch one of the first prison episodes, or the first prison episode before Karen got sick, where, if you remember, Tyrese didn't like killing the zombies at the fence. He didn't like doing that. And he thought he would be better at going on a run, so he went on a run where I believe the character's name is Luke, or I think it was Luke, the kid who was Beth's boyfriend.
Yes.
And that was the first episode when they came back, and I think it was titled 30 Days Without an Accident or something, because she had that sign, you know, in her room that she changed to a 0 after he died. But after he went on that run and came back, he goes and tells Karen, "I don't think I'm good on runs either," you know. And I've said this before on different shows, but always felt that from the comics and from the people that read the comics, you heard about Tyrese. Oh, he's badass, he's a great character, and we didn't get to see that character, I don't think, in the show, and I don't think they did him justice. And it seemed like, coming to this point, he was going to start to emerge to be that super badass type guy, kind of like, more like a Daryl, who doesn't say much and just goes out and does, you know. And that's the way Tyrese was kind of portrayed, where, you know, he's a good guy, but he goes out and does what he's got to do. And we never got a chance to see him, so that's a little bit sad. But I'm sure he'll be back, because they bring everybody back.
You're right. Actually, Tony, it's interesting in the comics, and I know, and once again, I'm going to preface this by saying I know the comics and the show are different. They have they're using the general same storylines, but they go in different directions, and I'm okay with that. When it first happened, I wasn't that big of a fan of it, but that was so long ago that now I've gotten used to it. Now I kind of enjoy it, because what fun would it be that, okay, if they did a direct adaptation of the comic into the TV show, the people who read the comic are like, okay, I know what's going to happen. He's going to die. He's going to die. He's next. She's going to die. This is what's going to happen. There's no surprises, and I kind of like how they do this, and they introduce some new characters, which I think is good also. But what's great about Tyrese, what really blew it for Tyrese, I think, was the fact that they decided to keep Shane around longer than he was supposed to be. Now, in the comics, Shane only lasts the first 6 issues, mainly because Kirkman didn't know how successful his comic was going to be at the time. So he decided he wanted to drop a bombshell death early on in the series, just in case, okay, Image decides, you know what, this isn't selling well, we're going to drop it after issue 12 so he can pretty much say what he wanted to and have at least one big bombshell death that would freak everybody out. And then what happens in the comics is, after he dies in issue 6, Tyrese appears in issue 7, and basically Tyrese becomes Rick's second-hand man, his conscience, his vice president, his partner, whatever, the guy who, Rick's the boss, I'm the one who is supposed to be there to support him, but I will tell him when I think he's doing something wrong, and I will explain why I think he's doing it wrong. And there were many, many times where the two of them butted heads, and they had very major disagreements, but in the end, they respected each other, and they liked each other, and they had their issues. They definitely had their issues. There were plenty of times where they got into the fist fights like we saw at the jail and stuff like that, and where they had major differences of opinion. And he wasn't the type of lackey who was like, oh, well, I disagree wholeheartedly with what you're doing, but we're going to go ahead and do it. No, he'd get in Rick's face and say, you know what, you're going to change what you're going to do, and this is why. And then Rick will get back in his face, and they'll go back and forth, and then they'll go at it, and eventually they'll come to some sort of happy medium between the two of them. So I was hoping for that kind of Tyrese, because he was the type of badass who, he was a brilliant second in command, was a great guy that, if something happened to Rick, the group would be in good hands. Rick would say, if anything ever happened to me, I died, whatever, I got turned to a zombie, I have no doubt that Tyrese would kill me in a second, because that's how much respect he has for me. And I would do the same to him. If he turned immediately, he would expect me to kill him in a second also, because we know each other so well, and how each other works out, that we have that respect for each other. And I also believe that if something happened to me, Rick, I believe Tyrese would be the perfect guardian, surrogate father for Carl. He would be the perfect guy to protect him, because he would lay down his life for Carl as if it was his own son. That's the relationship that they had. Yes, it was antagonistic many, many times, but there was also a very big respect between the two of them. And it was a second in command and president type of thing. And then they didn't focus just entirely on that. They gave Tyrese his own storylines. They made him have an affair with Carol, and then he broke that off when he started having an affair with Michonne, and it was actually trying to calm Michonne down after her torture by the governor in the comics. They sort of broke into a relationship there, and that caused Carol to go totally insane, but we're not going to cover that right now, because it's the Carol in the TV show is completely different than the one in the comics. And to be honest, I like the Carol in the TV show better. So Tyrese was that badass, and that's the reason, was I think because they kept Shane around for an additional, I don't know, it was probably about 8, 9 episodes before they killed him off again in the second. They killed him off in the second season. So they kept him around for close to 15, 16 episodes, I think, and that sort of knocked off the balance a little bit. And then once Shane died, you had to show Rick being, I'm the boss. You got to listen to me. You want to survive. You're going to do everything I say. And then you get to the jail, and then he doesn't appear till very near, I think, the first mid-season finale at the jail, and that's when Tyrese makes his first appearance. And by then, everything has been already set in place. They know Rick's in charge, and technically, Daryl is also taking the role of Tyrese. Daryl is kind of the second in command who's got Rick's back and stuff like that. So Tyrese just sort of, Kirkman had to bring Tyrese in because everyone loved Tyrese, but he couldn't be the same Tyrese that was from the comics, because he's already got a Daryl, and Shane and Rick had that antagonistic type of relationship, whatever. And they said, we don't really know what we're going to do with it, so why don't we change it up a little bit and make him more of, maybe not a pacifist, but more of a guy who isn't going out there to kill. He wants to try to save people or be protector and not really a killer type of thing. And I guess that was kind of badly served Tyrese, because he was such a badass and such a great character in the comic.
Now, wasn't he not him, but not Herschel, that the governor beheads?
Mm-hmm.
So again, that plays into what you were saying. At this point, Tyrese is gone also in the comics, because post governor there is no Tyrese.
Mm-hmm.
And a good question for Kirkman would be, is the flow and the story of the show affecting the future of the comic? because we know that the show is broken away from the comic because of people that have died at a place. The main storyline is pretty much the same, but some of the details and some of the characters are misplaced and mismatched. And we've got characters like you said. Daryl's not in the comic book at all. So he's a composite. Rick's second in command has kind of been Herschel since Shane was gone, and Herschel kind of took the Dale position, except Dale was a little, I'm going to say, liberal or good, but the whole group was very much more good in the Dale seasons, from in the first season and the second season. It didn't start getting bad until after then. And if Dale was still around, which he's not in the comic, he's gone also.
Yeah, he was the one that he got the Bob treatment. In the comics, Dale was the Bob. He was the one that got captured by, it wasn't the termites, it was the Marauders who I think the Marauders were a composite of both the claimed gang and the termites together. In the TV show was this one group in the comics. I think they were called the Marauders, and they were the ones who Dale got bit in the leg and was kind of depressed and got off on his own, and Rick and his crew had messed with the Marauder stuff, so they kidnapped Dale, cut his leg off, and were eating it, and the whole spoiled meat thing was from Dale's mouth. Then they beat the crap out of Dale, and then he ended up dying very soon. They dropped him off, and then they slaughtered the Marauders. Not in the same way. It wasn't in a church. Instead, what they did was they hunted them in the woods and took them out with sniper fire and stuff like that, and then hacked up their bodies and dumped it on or took their bodies and hacked them up in front of Father Gabriel or something, from what I recall in the comics. So yeah, so you're right. So they sort of mixed and matched some stuff to cover some things. So, but yeah, I agree with that. I think if Dale was still around, like he was up to that point, they might not have gone off the rails so much. Though there was some tight stuff in the jail, because in the comics they were in the jail for a really long time. About, at least in the comic world, let's say you roughly do one issue a year, or rather, 12 issues a year, once a month. They were in the jail for about, 30 issues. So that's
Wow.
a lot of time they can cover.
I still say that they did not do enough at the prison to make it safe. It boggled my mind, because you did have something that just about was indestructible, unless you came a-calling the way the governor did both times. The first time he came, and he delivered some zombies to them, and the second time he came with a tank. Which are two tough things to overcome. However, they did change that front gate where they had that big metal opening thing to stop another incursion like that. But they could have done something to the fences to stop the zombies from seeing them and having them build up on the fences. That was a big problem. They had towers, so if they're worried about sight lines, you put spotters up there. You've got places where you can have people and you've got visibility. And they could have cut down some trees, but there was still part of the prison was still a no man's zone, because there was the broken fence at the back that they stopped showing after a while. But that could have been fixed. And once you fix that, nothing else can get in. Then you can clean out what's already there. But it's me. And they had a lot of people after Woodbury. They had a busload of people, and people don't even realize how many people died at the prison or because of the prison and the governor. Because that school bus that went by, the one that Glenn was looking for Maggie on, and vice versa, that bus was packed with people, and they all died. So anyway, it was a good episode.
It was, and just real quick, we can hit the Tyrese stuff. As I wrote, as I mentioned in, I forget where I mentioned it before, but I wrote somewhere that I kind of wanted. Oh, it was in my my Dylan Knows episode where I was by myself, and I was talking a little bit about what was going to happen. I did it on the day of the season premiere. I said, you know what, I kind of want to see, as I don't want to see any more deaths this season, because we had Bob and we had Beth this season already. Now, the reason why I said that was because now it seems like it's a given. It's that we're expecting someone's going to end up dying, and if they want to get back to maybe shocking people a little bit more, maybe they should not have killed anybody the rest of this season. Because this season, if they're going, as I said, where I think they're going, where they're going to be going to Arlington and setting stuff up, no one really dies until the beginning of the next story arc, and by then that's when the bloodshed really starts to happen. And then I could see that if you decide to just, you don't kill anybody for the rest of the season, okay, and you can still have some, surprises and cliffhangers to make it interesting, but then next season you can start knocking them off one by one, leading to the next big story arc, and then it might be a little bit more of a shock factor. And also, don't always do it at the season premiere or the season finale. Try to do it, like episode 4, like they did in the first season. In the first season, when the zombies attacked the camp and Carol's abusive husband was killed and a bunch of other characters got killed as well, that happened like in episode 4. They still had 2 more episodes left to go. And the only thing that happened in episode 6, the final episode of that season, was they went to the CDC and they blew it up. Basically, that was really about it. I mean, they learned some other stuff, but no one else really died except for the character played by Noah Emmerich. So, and then season 2, once again, they didn't really have much death till they got to the farm. From what I recall, there was a lot of shootings. I mean, Carl got shot, Daryl got shot, but when they got to the farm, that's when the deaths started mounting. And once again, that was kind of shocking. Like you said it a bunch of times before, when Dale died, everyone was like, holy shit, they killed Dale. I didn't believe that. I didn't know it was going to happen. I think there was still a couple episodes left in that season. Then they killed Shane, and I think they still had like one more episode to go after that. So that was kind of a big surprise. But then all of a sudden you get to the 3rd season, and it's like, okay, let's hit some beats here. We got this. Okay, this person's got to die here. This person's got to die here. This person's got to die here. The 4th season, like, they got to die here. So I would have preferred that they wouldn't have killed anybody the rest of the season and then gone back to the shock and awe of the death, because now everyone's like, okay, who's going to die this season? It's the big question everybody talks about, when you see the articles on, Masson or MSN, excuse me, or Yahoo, whenever they do a story about the new season of Walking Dead, it's like, who's going to die? Here's your chance to pick out who's going to die. Well, what if nobody dies?
Well, so I think it was last Thursday, Andrew Lincoln was on a satellite radio show, on the Opie radio show, and one of the things that he said was that the second half of this season, according to Andrew Lincoln, was going to be crazy, and it's going to be different. And I think if it follows along with Tyrese, and he didn't say anything, not necessarily about people dying, but he said, we had a place, it wasn't good, and we had to leave. And we found another place, and it was good, we were there, and we had to leave. He said, the next half of this season is going to be different, because if they keep on doing the same things over and over and over again, then people are going to stop watching. And you have to keep the story honest, and that's something that Kirkland has said also. Nobody's safe. If they feel like they've got to kill somebody, they will kill somebody, and nobody is safe. But according to Andrew Lincoln, the rest of the season is going to be crazy, and even though it sounds like they have intentions of looking for someplace safe, I don't think they're going to find something just based on what he said. But we'll see. But and we should wrap up there with Walking Dead, because we had a long rant. And do you know what tomorrow is, Dylan?
Yes, I do. It is Friday the 13th. Dun, dun, dun. First one of 3 this year, actually.
Wow, I didn't realize there was only 3. Because I thought there was, like, at least as many Friday the 13th as possibilities of having a fifth Sunday, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, but I mean, it's weird how the thing works. I think last year, I think they only had maybe 1 or 2 Friday 13ths, and then like the year before that, there was like 4. So it's kind of just depending upon, I think, where the schedule, where the calendar lies and stuff like that. I mean, in this case, we get 2 back to back because the way the calendar is, February and March are the exact same month, with the exception that March has 3 additional days to it when it's not a leap year. Because if you look at it, the first of February was a Sunday. The 1st of March is a Sunday. And the Friday 13th. February 13th is Friday 13th, so is March 13th. So every year, if you look at the calendar, every year, March and February and March have the exact same timing. And even if it is a leap year, they still the exact same timing, except for when you get to the end where, February has 28 or 29 days and March has 31. But every year, February and March have the same dates, same time, so you know exactly, okay, it's the 13th, so I know what day it's going to be in March because it's what day it was in February.
Okay, so in honor of Friday the 13th, we're going to talk about superstitions, because Friday the 13th is a superstitious type day, and so we're going to have another Friday the 13th next month, according to what Dylan just said, because, hey, next month on Thursday the 12th, we're going to do the next snooze, and the next day is going to be Friday the 13th. So I've got a list of 13 things here that I shared with Dylan, and it's not my list. I didn't make it. I found this on the internet. But 13 superstitious things that we can go through kind of quickly, and their origins. And but to start the discussion, when I was a kid, it seemed like there was a lot more superstitious people and references to superstitious type things in like TV shows and in in social circles than you actually hear or see now. And that's just my opinion, what I think I've seen. Are people more superstitious these days? Less? Is it something that's kind of dying out because people are more self-absorbed with their Instagrams and Twitter accounts and stuff?
I think you hit that on the head. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I recall the same thing. It seemed like everybody was a lot more superstitious when we were younger, but nowadays I hardly ever hear anybody, talking about, oh shoot, you broke a mirror, it's 7 years bad luck, or oh, some salt fell, I'm gonna put it over my shoulder. I sometimes just do it just for the fun of it, but I honestly I don't believe in any of the superstitions. It may be because there's been plenty of times where I've done things that are considered bad, like spilling salt, and then I decide I wasn't going to, fling it over my shoulder, and I just clean it up and put it away, and nothing bad happens to me. So you get to the point where it's like, you know what? That's BS. There's nothing's going to happen to me if this happens. If a black cat walks in front of my path, I'm not going to have a bad day, or I'm not going to collapse, and or anything bad is going to happen to me, because to be honest, bad stuff happens all the time to people. I mean, be it from work where you're stressed out due to a work project, or like a good example is tonight I found out today that potentially tomorrow I'm going to be short 5 people at work. And that just means, and we're behind in a lot of aspects, so I have to, part of my job is I have to figure out how I'm going to mix stuff around and make sure everything is running to its optimal, potential, but I'm be 5 people short, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, so that's stressing me out, and it's making me, not scared, but a little scared about how I'm going to get everything done. I'm going to start getting pressure from the bosses, like, hey, why isn't this going out? Why aren't you doing more to get this done? And it's freaking me out a little bit. But I just think a lot of these superstitions that are on this list are stuff that we've heard about forever, but it just, they're all based in old style stuff, and it doesn't really. And as I said, it doesn't seem like you forget to do things. You forget to knock on wood, or you forget that you break a mirror, and as I said before, and nothing happens to you. So why should I believe in those superstitions,
So anyway, I'm sorry, I was distracted there for a second. But yeah, the first one, uh, breaking a mirror. And this goes back, I mean, always heard this 7 years bad luck if you break a mirror. And ancient Romans believed that human life renewed itself in 7 year cycles, according to the moon. Um, but a reflection was considered like somebody's magical likeness. So, like, basically, like when you looked in a mirror, you were like looking at your soul or something like that. So, if you broke a mirror, basically, you were breaking the bond between your body and your spirit, you know, because your reflection would be the last thing that the mirror saw before it broke. And I didn't know this. Um, Jewish families cover mirrors after the death of a loved one so they wouldn't get lost, finding eternity, like roaming around inside mirrors. That's weird. No, not that it's weird, but I mean,
No,
it's just
it's
it's
it's weird. No, it really is because that's once again it harkens back to the old days. And as I said, nowadays people really don't believe in spiritual, magical. I mean, there's some people that believe in the spiritual, magical things and stuff like that, but the majority of people are so hardwired into technology, and there's been many advances in science so that we can tell that, okay, this isn't real. It's all and it's all stuff from the past, and that's but still there's just some things, I guess, that are so ingrained in you that you're going to automatically put the black shroud over the mirror just because that's what you've always done.
Well, number two on the list is the knock on wood, which you also mentioned, and I had heard something along these lines where like the wood nymphs or the evil spirits could be in the wood, and you want to know something? So if the evil spirits are in the wood, why would I want to knock on it? Because wouldn't that wake them up? Let's leave them there.
No, it's true, and also I still find myself doing it every once in a while, and I don't know if I truly believe it, but once again, it's one of these things that's so ingrained in me because I'm so afraid that if I don't do it, that something bad might happen to me. But I know deep in my mind that nothing bad is going to happen to me. But usually when I do it, it's like, oh man, I hope I don't get into a car accident tomorrow. Knock on wood, and it's like, is this wood? I don't even know if it's wood anymore. So I find myself doing it every once in a while. But yeah,
Right.
nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and the knocking on the wood is in a lot of cultures, and in some cultures there's evil spirits in the wood, and in some cultures it's good luck to knock on the wood because there's good spirits that are going to help you. So it is a little bit confusing, but both ways you're supposed to knock on wood. Leave me out of that one. Um, Number three. Now, when I was a kid, this was a big one. Walking under a ladder. Now, when I was a kid, heard, you know, walking under a ladder was bad luck, and now I always picture like an 8 or a 10 foot ladder that has one of those little trays that folds down so you could put a can of paint on. And my thought was always that something could fall on top of your head if you walked under a ladder. So I was very afraid to walk under a ladder. But ancient Egyptians believed that a ladder perched against a wall created a sacred triangle, and if you walked beneath it, it disrupted spiritual energies. Um, and early Christians avoided the underside of ladders because depictions of a ladder propped up against the cross, to take Jesus down. And in it's anywhere being under a ladder, like when you were hanged or something, like there was a ladder type device, no good. But uh, again, I mean, when I was a kid, you didn't walk under a ladder because you didn't want something to fall on your head. But
And that's smart. That's just being smart because I don't walk under ladders because you don't know what could happen, and it's not anything to do with I'm afraid that a spirit is going to come and capture me. No, I'm afraid that whoever's working on the ladder is going to drop something on my head. And that's the only reason why I don't walk under a ladder. It's not about bad luck. It's about it has happened. I've seen it before. People drop things lose their balance, something shifts accidentally and falls down. Yeah, it's just it's smart.
so I just want to point out that Amy is very superstitious. She's batshit crazy, and it's a Latin thing. So we're gonna have to scare the shit out of her. So why don't you take the next one, Dill, the spilling salt? Because this one, when I read this, I was like, you've got to be crapping me. And there's one thing in here about the painting that I did not know.
I
And
did not know it either till I just reread it too. Wow. But spilling salt, that's been around for a while. You're making dinner or you're at a restaurant, whatever, you knock over the salt and it spills out and you get a big pile of salt. You're supposed to grab a pinch of it and toss it over your shoulder. Now, that goes back to, in the ancient world, salt was a preservative for food and for mummification, giving it a connection to immortality. In the European Middle Ages, village dwellers left a line of salt outside their doors, believing that witches would be compelled to count every grain before entering. I've seen stuff like that before where you use the salt as a way to contain evil spirits, and it doesn't really explain maybe why you do that. It says it's a preservative. Is it to preserve, the sanctity of life, and so that evil can't get over it? But yeah, this is what you were just talking about. And once again, I didn't know this either. The ultimate bad luck is to spill your salt. And in Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper, which everybody knows the painting, it's a picture of Jesus in the center and all the apostles around him. It shows Judas knocking over the salt, which was a harbinger of his betrayal. So it says, to uncross yourself from spilling the salt, you must toss a pinch over your left shoulder, blinding the demon waiting behind you. Now, I did not know that was in there. Now I have to go back and I have to look at the Last Supper and see if it's actually true.
I'm actually looking at it, and it's definitely there. It's not that clear, but I'm gonna see if I can tweet out a good one, because some of, like, there's one or two versions where it's cleaned up a little bit, and and it keeps on bringing me back to this. So let me grab this one.
But so just speaking of Judas, so real quick, if anyone's have ever seen a Jesus Christ Superstar, the musical based on the life of Jesus, Judas is really the main character. Jesus isn't, and we learn, and there have been some people who believe this as well, that Judas was actually doing Jesus's bidding the whole time, that it was his duty as the apostle to be the one to betray him so that he can go and sacrifice himself and create basically the Christian religion and their belief system. And that was just that he was his goal to do that, and he didn't want to do it, but Jesus was very persuasive, and that Judas was his favorite apostle, and that's why he ended up doing that. So, but that is, as I said, just one theory that some people have about what Judas did. So that's interesting.
I am tweeting that picture out as we speak, but yeah, Judas is to the left of Jesus, and you can definitely see the salt is. Oh, Dylan, that sexual chocolate is awesome. I mentioned that earlier. And I'm going to tag Myrna, and I'm going to tag Amy. I know they're watching, and I'm going to tag Laura because I think she's still sticking around.
And I think some of the McGivnas were. I think Helena was watching as well, or John was, or both were watching.
Okay, well, tag out Helena. And so, but that is very interesting, that, that's one thing. When I read that, after I sent that out, I was like, oh, here's a list of 13 superstitious things, and I just read the titles, and then earlier today I was going through this, and I was like, wow, I did not know that. Why don't you take the next couple?
Yeah, I'll take the next one. Yeah, sneezing. Everyone knows that when you sneeze, you say God bless you. Now, I still do that. I just do it because I think it's something I've been ingrained with, and I think it's nice to say God bless you. But the whole reason for it was because there are people, and I haven't read the piece you had here, but this is just what I heard, is that the reason why you say God bless you is because there were people who believed that sneezing, you were losing part of your soul was coming out of your body when you sneeze. So saying God bless you is able to either trap it back or get it back in your system. But let me go through here. It says this practice or something similar is found around the world, from Africa to Florida. It
agrees with you 100%.
Yeah. Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans believed that the soul lived in the form of our breath, and a sneeze could expel the soul from the body. So, that's why you always say, God bless you, because that way you can either get your soul back in the body, or if your soul a piece of it does escape, that it doesn't get captured by an evil demon and you get turned into an evil evil Tony or evil Dylan, you know. So, but yeah, so that's one that I still do, but once again has nothing to do with superstition. It's just being polite. Anything you want to add to it, Tony? Or
No, no. The only thing that I had heard growing up about a sneeze was that allegedly when you sneeze, there is the potential for your heart to stop, and that was why people said "bless you." But that used to scare the crap out of me because ever since I was a kid, whenever I sneeze, I never sneeze once. Like I sneeze at least 5 times. And it happens especially more in the summertime because I get allergies, not that bad, but I'll have what I call a sneezing fit. And the most I've ever done is like 7 or 8 in a row. It's usually about 4 or 5. But when I was a kid, it used to scare the crap out of me. It was like, oh crap, my heart stopped.
And the thing also, I mean, I know but the thing is, when you get into that 5 or 6 or 7, eventually, because you've been expelling your breath like that, when you're done, I feel short of breath because you're basically we're losing, the air out of your lungs is shooting out there. So when you're done, I can get that feeling that maybe something's wrong with me because I get this. It's hard to breathe, because you just lost all this air. So eventually you get back, your body gets back to normal. But still, it would scare the hell out of me also.
So the next one is opening an umbrella indoors, and there's a whole lot of, I'm going to say, bad malarkey around this one, because as with many modern conveniences, an umbrella was once a luxury that was only allowed to, by royalty. But it's actually in here. Some believe that bad juju is expelled when an umbrella springs open inside a room. And I always thought that you didn't open an umbrella inside because either A, you're going to take somebody's eye out with that umbrella, or you're going to knock some shit over that you're going to get a beating for. So you didn't open an umbrella in the house, especially considering that usually an umbrella, if it was used, it was wet. So if you open it up, you're going to get water all over the place. But that's besides the point. But
bad juju.
Yeah, bad juju.
You're absolutely right, because that's what it is. I mean, you open it inside and you're going to break something probably, or you are going to take someone's eye out, because you've seen the umbrellas, they've got those points on it. Yeah, they've got the little, caps on it, but sometimes those caps disappear. They're really loose, and before you know it, you're cutting yourself or cutting somebody else. And then the wetness, yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing also. You shoot it out and the rainwater just comes splattering up against the wall or the carpet or whatever. But here's the thing, though. I mean, do you want to open your umbrella when you go outside in the rain? I don't think so. You kind of want to open it indoors or right in the doorway right before you leave. That way, so when you go outside, you're not getting wet at all. That's the whole point of an umbrella.
Well, and here goes the thing, exactly what you just said, okay? Because I have a method of opening an umbrella, okay, which is you crack open your car door and you stick it out. And I don't use umbrellas anymore, but when I did, you stick it up there, you push the button, it opens up, so now you've got your portable roof opened above your head, okay? But I learned a long time ago that sometimes when it's raining horizontally, like when you've got a real storm, okay, and you've got that wind blowing, it doesn't make a difference what you've got, okay? You're going to spend more time, fighting the wind than staying dry, okay? And you're going to be soaked from your knees down anyway. But the funny thing is that last second when you actually have to close the umbrella, like right before you go indoors, okay, everything that you did for the last 10, 15 minutes while you were outside is all gone if it's really raining that hard, because as soon as you close that umbrella and go inside, you're still getting freaking wet. So you might as well just put a hat on and deal with it,
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right on that one. Do we take the next one? Horseshoes.
Yeah, it's friggin' horseshoes. What a bunch of malarkey this is.
Yeah. The luckiest of all good luck charms is the horseshoe. The ancient Greeks invented the horseshoe not only to protect the feet of their horses, but also to honor them as holy animals. To the Greeks, the horseshoe's design was sacred. The U shape was associated with the crescent moon, historically seen as a symbol of fertility, new beginnings, and good fortune. Okay, I guess that makes sense. And that goes on through other stuff as well. Hanging a horseshoe outside one's home dates to the plague years in Europe, where it was believed to ward off illness. The practice stuck, and golden horseshoes appear on homes and businesses around the world. Now, I'm going to make a statement right now. This, once again, I don't believe in this superstition, and I don't think my company does either. But when you walk into my company, over the wall, the doorway, the hallway opening that leads to the hall where all the offices are, there is a little mini horseshoe.
Right.
I don't know. It's been there forever. I guess they're just putting it there, but it's just it's weird.
And it has to be U-shaped. It can't be N-shaped, because if the ends of the U are hanging down, then the luck runs out.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, think about it, people. You could take a paper clip, cut it in half, and you've got a mini horseshoe. Is that going to give you good luck?
Yeah, the only good luck I want in horseshoes is playing the game horseshoes and making sure I get a ringer. That's all I care about with my horseshoes.
Okay, so the next one, I'll take this one, and I kind of knew this because, hey, anybody who's seen Roots knows about jumping the broom, which is an expression for getting married. Today, the African-American expression jumping the broom means getting married, but it comes from an old custom that the newlyweds literally jump over a broom to prove that one of them is not an evil double. I didn't know the evil double part, but I kind of thought that it was because they weren't allowed to like get married in a church, that this was, just what they did. But in folklore found in both European Middle Ages and traditional African cultures, vampires and wicked spirits were considered to possess obsessive and compulsive traits. Hence, a malevolent spirit would have to stop to count all the broom bristles, exposing a sinister entity that attempted to disguise itself as the bride or groom. Even after the wedding, couples must be careful. The new husband carries his wife over the threshold, which the Romans believed was crawling with evil spirits. With his act of chivalry, he helps her avoid them. And
then it just goes on about the bridesmaids'
dresses. The bridesmaids' dresses were supposed to be nice because it was to distract the evil spirits. So, in other words, in ancient Roman times, the bridesmaids were supposed to look hotter than the bride. So the evil spirits, so basically they're saying, hey, you want to be my bridesmaids? You're my best friends. Okay, yes, I am making you, a target for the evil spirits so they do not attach themselves to me. And I'm just lucky because I'm getting married before you are. And that's why there's the old maid, because she gets everybody's evil spirits, and then she looks like a boil on a horse's butt and never gets married.
Exactly. Forever a bridesmaid, never the bride, because you have all the evil spirits attached to you. Good one for taking one. We'll take one for the team. Way to go. Rabbit's foot. The lucky rabbit's foot is a must-have for every superstitious gambler or risk-taker. The rabbits, apparently, according to the Aztecs and the Chinese, had magical properties, seeing it as a symbol of cunning and survival. And the German and Scottish, which I am both, actually, place special emphasis on the the rabbit's relative, the hare, which was considered capable of placing an evil eye on people.
The Maloikyo.
Probably because one of the few animals born with its eyes open. Woo! Obtain the animal's hind foot. Okay, carrying a rabbit's foot got popularized in the 19th century, the African-American magical tradition called hoodoo, not voodoo, that hoodoo that you do. Many actors, a famously superstitious lot, kept a rabbit's foot in their makeup box. Rabbit's feet were once used to apply makeup, but lingered as a performer's good luck charm.
Okay, so that explains a little bit of it, because a rabbit's foot's lucky. Well, it wasn't too lucky for that rabbit, was it? You know what I mean? Okay,
exactly.
So either there's a lot of rabbits running around with only 3 legs, or just a bunch of dead rabbits that ain't got none.
Exactly, and then they're dead, so their power is gone, right?
Yeah. But I didn't know about the evil eye. Now I know about the evil eye from from being Italian, and that's why they have the devil horn. It's supposed to ward off the maloicchio, so you don't want to get the evil eye. Um, but that's amazing. So only got three more left, and the next one is the wrong side of the bed. Okay, so the wrong side of the bed is the side of the bed that I'm not sleeping on because I can only sleep on the right side. The other side is the wrong side. I am never comfortable sleeping on the left side of the bed. So we've all woken up on the wrong side of the bed. Yet in the world of folklore and superstition, there really is a right and wrong way to get up in the morning. Climbing out of bed on the left side has bad consequences. This stems from the ancient Egyptian belief that the left side belongs to the forces of death and destruction. So that explains my wife. She is the forces of death and destruction, I guess. Some modern
And mine too, because she's left-handed, so she's evil.
Right, and some modern hotel and casino designers even arrange guest rooms with the left side of the bed facing a wall, helping you rise on the side of luck. Well, wouldn't they want you to rise on the left side of the bed because they want you to? I mean, everything is already rigged for them to win anyway. It's already in their favor. Why would they want to give you even the slimmest chance? And European custom, I didn't know about this, requires that you exit the bed on the same side as you entered it, or else the cosmic circle of sleep will be disturbed. I did not know there was a cosmic circle of sleep. Oh man! So then you're screwed for the whole day, and then the next day you have to resume a normal cycle of sleep.
Well, I must win that because I always get up on the same side I get into bed, so I win that. So yay me!
Yeah, well, so do I. But I mean, I sleep on the right side of the bed, and that's just because it ended up where I had the side of the bed that has the alarm clock on it. And that's just the way it is.
Yep. Number 11, wearing black while mourning.
Italians started this one a long time ago.
The loss of a loved one creates sadness and confusion, which are a devil's playground for superstitions. Many ancient cultures, from China to Persia, consider death contagious. People who are around the recently dead were supposed to be avoided. In Rome, mourners wore black, so others would know to stay away from them. Okay. All right, I can see that. Some believe that you should actually give away your colored clothes while mourning for a quick passage of sorrows, really. But sure not to wear your mourning clothes beyond 2 years or you risk a new tragedy. Another European custom holds that you should never accept a gift during your loss or you'll soon find yourself grieving again. And if you wear mourning gloves, be sure they are made of cotton or your whole household could go to the grave. So if you don't wear cotton gloves, your whole household is going to hell.
I'd never heard of the cotton, and I didn't know. I mean, I know there's, acceptable mourning time, but I did not ever hear of mourning gloves. And it's mourning as in to mourn, and not, gloves that you wear in the morning. But that is wild.
And the weird thing is, though, I don't really consider that a superstition. I mean, I know what they said in here, but it's considered to be sadness. So that's why, you're gonna want to wear black because you're sad. Your family member died. You don't want to come to the funeral wearing, a bright pink shirt or red shirt or, a Hawaiian shirt or whatever, because it's almost mocking. Oh, hey, look, I'm glad you're dead. I'm happy. I'm having a party. The black is very somber and it keeps you. I just never thought of that as a superstition. So that's interesting.
Well, I would guess, based on what's here in ancient times, like back in the plague. Hey, someone near to me died. Okay, and if there was illness, I mean, hey, if you've been around dead people, you don't know why they died. You don't know if they got a sword in them or if they died because they had, plague or some other kind of disease. So anybody, and I guess, history would tell you that, because we didn't have good medicine, I got sick, maybe somebody else in your family got the same disease, and et cetera, and so that makes sense in that context. But that tradition, I guess, has changed from, hey, this is my mourning clothes, to it went from warning clothes to mourning clothes. Black was like, hey, stay away from me because
I'm contagious.
I got leprosy and shit, and you don't want it. Ooh, only two more to go.
Yeah, and it's appropriate that you're going to do this one because I know how much you love your black
Okay.
cats.
Black cats. I don't have a love affair with cats. In Egypt, cats were considered sacred to the gods. And a more practical level as the perfect solution to keeping rats and mice out of the grain. Now, you want to know something? In that context, if there was more cats in Europe, a lot of plague would have been gone because rats were what was causing a lot of that plague stuff to get spread around. Yet our relations with felines took a different turn during here we go, during the European witch craze between the 11th and 12th centuries. Ooh, when did the plague happen?
Exactly.
Assholes. Europe's population exploded, with cats no exception. The animals were overrunning the continent and were widely seen as pests. In England, elderly or single women, the prime target of witch trials, were seen as caretakers of cats. So that means if Myrna was walking down the street with her cat, she would have been burned because she was a witch.
Exactly.
In England, elderly are prime targets. So the legend arose that felines are the companions or the familiars of witches. And what about the black cat? Another English tradition holds that Satan was thrown out of heaven into a blackberry bush, giving us malevolent associations with the color black, and the notion that black cats are an embodiment of the devil, a belief that also surrounds black dogs. Okay.
Yeah, black dogs I've heard, are being more demonic and like the pets of the devil, and the cats are those of the pets of the witches. So, I can see that, in the superstitious European witch craze, and even into when they came over the New World in the 1600s, 1700s with the witch trials there in Salem, it was the same thing. I mean, people with black cats, you're done. But I don't think I've ever actually technically had a black cat. I mean, Jinx is a little bit of gray in there as well, so she's not a full black cat, and none of my cats have been a full black cat. They've had black here and there, but I mean, I'm a cat lover, so I actually, it's odd, and the thing is, nowadays it's still kind of prevalent still, because you always hear, and this is terrible, people are still torturing and killing black cats around Halloween because of this superstition still lingers around, or they're just being assholes. It's like, oh, well, it's a black cat, let's kill it because it's a witch, So it's still prevalent, today, maybe not as strong as it used to be, but as I said, I've been around lots of cats. I've been around black cats before. I've seen them cross my path, and you know what? Nothing bad ever happens to me. I mean, nothing majorly bad, but I mean, except the regular, typical stuff you expect from every day. At least something bad's gonna happen to you maybe once a day, probably. But
The last but not least.
This is a good one.
Yes.
Do you want to take it? Or do you want me to take it? It doesn't matter.
We can both do a little bit of it, but this is number 13. The number 13.
I'm gonna press this real quick. This is Dawn's lucky number, actually, and I think she just does it because it is considered to be such a bad luck number that she says, I'm going to go against the grain and call it my lucky number. So, but yeah, I mean, the main thing, it's there. I mean, people truly believe that for whatever reason, 13 is evil. And, nowadays, as mentioned in here, a lot of buildings, hotels, buildings, whatever, they do not have a 13th floor. It'll go from 12 to 14 because of that superstition. Same thing with, other 13s, Apollo 13. That was the one that, that made the movie about, and it almost,
Well, you see, the thing that I had heard, and one of the things that they're saying in here is in Nordic mythology, the evil Loki is the 13th guest at a banquet of the gods, which ends in an argument and violence. But the most famous origin involves, again, Judas the salt spiller at the Last Supper, because he was a traitor and he's the 13th man at the Last Supper. And Jesus was crucified on Good Friday. So Friday and the 13th, when they come together, is a double bad thing. And Friday the 13th also marked the mass execution of medieval Knights Templar.
I did not
Following,
know. Yeah, I did not
yeah,
know that.
yeah. So following tensions with the Vatican, the Christian Knights were all but wiped out beginning on Friday, October 13th, 1307. 1307. Okay, so that was a bad day if you were a Knights Templar. Um, Most hotels do not have a 13th floor. But the funny thing is, it all depends on when the buildings were built. I spent a lot of time in New York City. I went in a lot of buildings from Midtown all the way down to the Battery, and some of the older buildings did not have a 13th floor, but they did. Okay, and but the funny thing is, on a building that did not have a 13th floor, sometimes they would have 12 and 14, or sometimes there'd be a 12A and not,
Ooh.
and then there'd be a 14. But the biggest thing that they had to do was they had to make sure that the building had 14 floors in total. Like, you would never see a building go from 12 to 14, because then the building really only had 13 floors. They'd have to put another floor on top of it to make it actually 14 floors, but put a 15th floor on top of that. Remember, there's no 13th floor, so go 12, 14, which is actually the 13th floor, and then 15, which would be the 14th floor. So they either stopped at 12 in some buildings, or they went to 15. But it seemed like some of the newer buildings that got built would have a 13th floor. But I've also heard that 13 floors were hard to rent. But I do know a lot of buildings will not have just 13 floors, even if they're not the superstitious type, because I've seen that.
And maybe possible it's not necessarily due to superstition. It could be
Yeah.
zoning. It could be, what the building's made out of. If it goes any higher than that, it might start to cause problems. Anything could happen like that. And of course, then the horror films of the 80s, of course, they gleaned on that. It's like, you know what, let's make a film series about Friday the 13th. Everybody gets freaked out by it, so let's make a Friday the 13th horror film with a guy wearing a ski or a hockey mask. Originally, not in the first one, obviously, he didn't start wearing it until I think the second or third one, and and then he starts just hacking up promiscuous teens, and it became a great film series. I mean, a popular film series, and it sort of died off a little bit. And they've been trying to bring it back every once in a while, but it's still out there. So you get kind of a mix of the old superstition, and then bam, 1980s. People automatically picture Jason in the hockey mask killing people. And I guarantee you tomorrow on Twitter you're going to see all those memes of Jason with the hockey mask talking about Friday the 13th and making jokes and cracking jokes and stuff like that. So you're going to see plenty of those tomorrow, as you always do when it's a Friday the 13th. So I guess that keeps the Friday the 13th myth alive, is that, they had that, mass murderer movie series killing, promiscuous teens and people in vicious ways. And it's still out there. I mean, it's even worse. You want to see people lose their shit. You want to see them lose their shit. It's a full moon on Friday the 13th, which has happened a few times. That's when people really lose it.
Yeah, you can, and the statistically, ERs, especially when you have a full moon on a Friday night, and it doesn't necessarily have to be really bad, like on a Friday, like you've got the convergence of all evil, just walk around that day with a black cat, and like you are, you are the ultimate evil at that point. But emergency rooms on when there's a full moon have more activity and stuff like that, and there's more crime and stuff happens. Like there's a little bit of a blip, and whether people realize they're doing things or not, it does happen. But the thing about something like the Friday the 13th that just concerns me a little bit, it is a date where you can say Friday the 13th, and if something bad was to happen on a Friday the 13th, there would be more than one Friday the 13th for copycats to try and do something on. Like there's only one March 3rd, okay? It only happens once a year. But a Friday the 13th, can happen many times in a year, as we discussed earlier. So that's my only fear about that. update, you know. Not that it means anything, but you know. And if you don't understand what I mean, Myrna, not going to be any more plain than that, you know. I'm trying not to give anybody any kind of ideas.
I'll tell you what we can do next. Next snooze, we can talk about. I do have some superstitions, but they're all more sports based. So we can start next on the 12th. We can start talking some sports based superstitions about what my superstitions are.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about like, you know, like what you wear before.
Yeah, I gotta wear the same things, or I gotta sit in the same spot, or you know, if I'm watching, you know, like a basketball game, like University of Maryland, and they're winning, and if I start watching it on TV, then they start losing. I can't watch it, so I have to turn it off so they don't lose. Stuff like that.
Yeah. There was one comment that I left out, and I'm gonna throw it out there now.
Yep.
And this was from Melinda Silken Soul. Sorry. She says, I suggest you keep that awesome shit up. So I had a conversation about this the other day, and it's just all of the awesome stuff that SnarkAlec are doing. So, yes, we will try and continue to keep the awesome stuff up. But yeah, I mean, so I tweeted it out earlier. There is the SnarkAlec improvement page where you can make suggestions or complaints. Right now, we are looking for a volunteer to be Myrna's personal technical advisor. I am involved in too many things because one of the things that I am thinking about doing and planning, and I need to get other people involved, is fixing some of the things that are wrong with the website, condensing some stuff down, putting stuff in an area where people can still get them, but it's kind of archived, like the SnarkAlec radio stuff. That stuff it's not going to go away, and I don't want to hide it, but it's not active anymore, so I doesn't need to be front and center. But Dylan knows is active, you know, with the zombie hacks, and I haven't had time even to keep up with that, because what I have a habit of doing is usually I'll put the most recent Dylan Knows up there on that page, usually when I update the zombie hacks, and I haven't been messing with the website too much recently because I've been just way too busy with stuff. But I want to try and focus on website and stuff like that, so I don't have time to be Myrna's personal IT person. So we need a couple of volunteers, maybe a whole team, because Myrna definitely needs some help. I
nominate Scott McDonald.
Well, yeah, he's definitely good with the phone. But I mean, hey, if anybody has any kind of technical questions and you want them answered, send them in. And if we can't figure it out, we can definitely find someone who can, and maybe walk you through some stuff during the show. It's not, we can spend 5 minutes on saying, hey, try this, try that. Or you could just go on and use the Google like most people do. And if you can't get the Google to work for you, then, you know, use us as a last resort. What else? Unscrambling tweets, sorry. Can't do that. Contacting book for SnarkAlec. It might be something that we can do, but
but really, as you said earlier, Tony, I mean, if you really want to contact somebody, I mean, yeah, DM them, but I mean, if they're not active anymore, I don't know that I don't know what to do about. I mean, if they're not active anymore, there's probably a reason why they're not active anymore, you know? Or maybe they just, you know, don't want to do it anymore. We'll see. I'm sure there's probably ways you can get in touch with them in some form or another. So someone out there might know something.
Okay. I've never heard about this one. Myrna says, yes, I understand. People believe if you cut meat in the pot, you get a divorce. So Myrna keeps on cutting the meat in the pot. So she's either daring or she wants it, you know?
Alrighty then.
Maybe you just have to find the right meat to cut. And if Mike was here, he would say something nasty about that. But anyway, anyway, keep your suggestions coming in, and we'll do what we can. Hey, Dylan knows on Sunday.
I do. Jerry Fletcher and I are back. We had to switch some stuff out because it was her anniversary last weekend. We're doing our list show. It's after Valentine's Day, but we're going to do, I think, the top 20 quotes about love from movies. So quotes in movies that deal with love, and we're going to talk about those quotes and talk about the movies themselves. So, just real quick, hits and misses, stuff like that. It's really difficult for me. I've only got 13 right now, so I've got to find 7 more by Sunday. But it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So, but there's some good ones out there, though.
Frankly, Dylan, I don't give a damn. And that was just me throwing out a quote, not saying I don't give a damn. Is there going to be anything else that might be popping up?
We'll have to wait and see. It's hard to do the thing you're talking about with what's coming up, but for those who don't know, I do have my other show, The Assistant, my fictional show. Right now, I'm sort of in a holding pattern trying to figure out where I'm going to go because I have the ending set, but I need to figure out a way to fill the time from now to July to do that. So I showed some stuff a couple of weeks ago. It depends on if I can get something out there this week. I'm going to definitely, this weekend is the best time for me to do it because I really can't do it during the week since I'm busy with other things. But this weekend, I've got some free up time. I might be able to dig up a couple episodes, but I'll definitely let everybody know what's going on with that. And there are things moving. Don't worry about that. It's still hanging around. It's just it's a little tough right now. I'm sort of in a holding pattern. I got to try to figure out how I'm going to keep it interesting instead of keep doing what I keep doing. So we'll let you know about that, definitely.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of other shows going on. There's Bring Out Your Geek. There's Nurture and Support. Kelly and Melissa are also doing a Talking Soul show.
Soul and Battery, yeah.
Soul and Battery. Haven't had a chance to see it yet. I may actually go and watch a couple of those because, hey, school night, kids, so haven't had a chance. I've been watching the show, but I can't, Sunday night after 11 o'clock, they're an hour behind us, so it's a little bit earlier for them. But, Better Call Saul comes on at 10 o'clock on Mondays, and I'm not going to watch it, but I'll probably binge a couple of times. I'm digging Better Call Saul. Hey Mike is going to be playing, Pagan's going to be playing on the 21st at Tattoos by Massel, and it's out in Akron, Pennsylvania. You can hit him up on G Plus or hit him up on Twitter if you want details. He's going to be out there. Bring Out Your Geek. There's that thing over there, that other thing. There's websites. There's suggestions. I don't know if I missed any plugs, but if I did, I'm sorry. But I think hit all of the big ones anyway.
Yep.
And that's about it. And so next time we may even talk about 12 Monkeys next time. Because, and we didn't get into it tonight, but I must say, last episode knocked my socks off. I loved it. I mean, I liked the show. I really, really liked the show, but that last episode, it was just like, wow, that was brilliant. I was like, how are they going to get out of this? And they got out of it, and I was like, and they did it plausibly. Kind of. Whenever you're dealing with time travel, they did it in a way that didn't piss me off, so.
Yeah, I got to binge watch that. I have them on the DVR. I just haven't had a chance to watch them yet because it's at a really rough time. 8 o'clock is kitty bedtime. So, and then we got to get prepped for 9 because Dawn does the recap for Paranormal Pop Culture on Helix. So, we got to roll that at 9 o'clock. So, that's at 9 o'clock, right? No, it's at 10 o'clock.
No. Helix is on at 10, and
right.
12 Monkeys is the 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, I forget. I guess because I don't remember why, but I need to binge watch it. But definitely, I have it recorded, and I'm definitely going to catch up on that. So
it's definitely worth watching. And there's a show that I kind of read about it, and a lot of people are talking about it, iZombie. And I read the synopsis, and I'll give it a shot. There's a lot of people looking forward to it, but it doesn't sound like there's zombies in it. Synopsis is there's like a werecat and some chick who works as a gravedigger, and she's like a zombie or something, but she's not a zombie, and she's got to eat a brain once a month. in
Yeah,
order
I've
to.
I've never read the comic it's based on, but it's going to be part of the CW comic book lineup that they do. The Flash actually is an excellent show. If anyone out there hasn't watched The Flash, it is definitely worth it. It's an excellent show.
I've watched it. I watched it at the beginning, but that's a Thursday. Is that a
That's
Thursday
Tuesday.
show?
No, it's Tuesday, 8
Thursday.
o'clock, so it's right
Thursday
before
o'clock.
Face Off. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tuesdays is a problem for me. I did watch it. I did like some of the characters. It just seemed like it was a little. I mean, I wasn't liking it as much as I like Gotham, and when I started watching Gotham, I didn't even think I was gonna like that. But one of the things about Gotham is it's so dark and it's so violent that for an 8 o'clock show, it just is so surprising that they actually put that on in an 8 o'clock time slot, with the stuff that happens in that show. And it's brilliant and it's clever and it's definitely an adult show, and it to me it has a feel of a show that should actually be on later, rather than at 8 o'clock. Because 8 o'clock is considered family time, people. And that's why. Um, but that show is brilliant. I'm loving that show more than I'm loving Sleepy Hollow. And I like Sleepy Hollow, but Sleepy Hollow is kind of doing what The Walking Dead is trying not to do, which is basically just keep on going around and around in the same circle and the same circle. They got to start. Something's got to happen there. But yeah.
Here's over the last 2 episodes rolling up for the season. Hopefully, there are going to be some big stuff going on and maybe some game-changing stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, we only got 2 more episodes of that. So
Yeah. But Gotham's great. 12 Monkeys, dude. I mean, Helix is freaking me out, and I still believe that what's going on with Julia is most of that is in her head, because every time that they were showing Hitaki, soft focus around, especially around the edges, like out of focus, very bright. So I still think something is not right with that whole thing that's going on in with that portion of the story. Because, like I said, whenever they showed Hitaki, it had that dreamlike quality. Meanwhile, when it's Alan and Sarah and the rest of them on the island in the commune, sharp focus, none of that crap. And the stuff that they're doing with the music, like when dudes getting beat by kids with the rocks and they play the Brady Bunch music, and it's like, then they did it again last week, and I was like, oh boy, it's happy music. Somebody's getting fucked up.
Andy Griffith, man, that was awesome.
Yeah, when they went fishing, when Hitaki went fishing with the
dude Mika or whatever. Yeah. No, we're going to wrap up soon, but I agree with you on that, because if you remember, before Julia encountered Hitaki, the guy who was, I forget his name right now, the guy who was on the island with her was like saying, you don't want to go here, which is where she was heading, which leads it to me to believe that it's some sort of psycho, mind-bending mental area for whatever reason on that island. There's some sort of psychotropic stuff that's causing her to see. Because let's face it, that's probably what her worst nightmare would be, is her father. Granted, she didn't really know her father that well, or doesn't remember him that much until just recently. But the fact that you have your father back and he's losing his mind, and he's drugging you, and he's starting to kill you, and he's got the dead bodies of your mother and your foster step whatever brother over there. It's like her worst nightmares come to pass, and that leads me to believe that, as you said with the soft focus, that it's some sort of mental situation that's going to just keep getting worse. So she's passed through this level, and then maybe tomorrow night she's going to enter another level, and some other creepy shit's going to happen too.
Yeah.
So
and that's the whole thing, because the way they kind of had it framed, where from her perspective, she sees him and he's in kind of soft focus, and he's talking to nobody, and then when they're at the table, there's just rotten bodies there, So there's something more that has not been revealed, although they made it look like, she killed him and he gave her the sword, before he died. I I don't know. I'm still going to stand by my kind of predictions that I think that as far as that's going, that something else is going on.
And then real quick, Myrna said Gotham's awesome. We should talk about Gotham. Maybe that's something we can do next month. Is
Yeah.
top some of the shows we watch.
Yeah, we may have to. I mean, we'll probably talk a little bit about The Walking Dead. We may talk about some Gotham. We may talk about there'll be more Helix. There'll be more 12 Monkeys in there. But because Walking Dead was the premiere, and the big shocker was
Tyrese, yeah.
Tyrese is big, but I'm telling you, wow, it was a great episode. And Laura agrees with me. You're right about Sleepy Hollow. Same thing over and over. I've already stopped watching before Christmas. Interesting show, some stuff going on, but it's not surprising. There's nothing that's happened so far in the show. I mean, the last episode that I watched, we find out that Irving is actually still working with Henry, and he's evil. So nothing new is going on over there. It's what you expected, something has to change in that show. They need to do something to get the life back into it.
Well, I truly believe what they should do and what they're going to be going for is they're going to start the apocalypse, and they really need to do like a whole season. If they get renewed for a third season, it just needs to be focusing on the apocalypse and what's going on, because that's where this is all leading to, is for them being the viewers of the apocalypse and trying to help stop it. So yeah. I think that's where it needs to go next.
Yeah, and so that's about it. So we already gave out the plugs. And again, hey, hit up the website, look for the SnarkAlec Improvement Department, and watch some of the shows we're talking about, and so that's about it for tonight. Wow, and this went an hour and 45 minutes. To tell you the truth, I thought we'd maybe do an hour, like 20 minutes on The Walking Dead, and then 20 minutes on the list of 13 things, but. Yeah, it went a little bit long. Oh, that was because of all the technical advice we gave out to people today. Awesome. Hey, we fixed about 5 laptops and 3 cell phones. And we did it at no charge.
Exactly. So. Snooze rules.
Yes, the snooze rules. So, again, March 12th, I believe, with, unless something unforeseen happens, we will be back here, and we'll do this again in a month. So, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you soon.